Good evening. Welcome back to Dose of Reality. This was an amazing topic, and we do have a guest. As we all know, the topic for today is going to be a beneficial discussion moving forward. We are hoping after this show, we will learn something that is gonna make a huge impact in our marital life starters and life that we are going to be having, inshallah. For those who are married, they will benefit from it, and those who are not will learn something from it. Well, the reason why I decided to bring this show today is because we have a lot of high rate of divorce, and we cannot figure out what's the issue, who is the issue, and how can we fix the situation. Maybe there's something missing, yeah. And I was having a hard time to find a family therapist, but mashallah, I did a little bit of extra work and I found Ashwak Hassan in Google. Mashallah, welcome, Ashwak, to Dose of Reality. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here today. Please introduce yourself, Ashwak.
Hi, Salam alaikum. Thank you so much. First of all, hello everybody. When I received your phone call, I was like, oh, hi, yes. It was really fun hearing and the questions that you asked. And so I've been therapist in the Twin Cities now over since 2008. So it's been a while. My name is Ashwak Hassan. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the Twin Cities. I work with families, I work with children. My specialization is parenting classes, working with children with neurodevelopmental disorders such as autism and how that impacts also marriage. So that's like one thing I'm really passionate about too, parenting and child play therapy. So all of that is what I do. And it's so funny. I do believe we have a second therapist here, a marriage and family therapist. And marriage and family therapist is so special. It's like my license stands for licensed marriage and family therapist. They're not a lot, but they are, I think, at least minimum 2 to 3 that have like the same license. Yeah.
MashaAllah. Welcome to Dose of Reality again. It's an honor to have you here because we have an issue that is really becoming too pathetic right now. And we just want to get into like, what are the things we can work on? What are the things that that you can help our community? My first question will be, this could be questions that I'm asking from me, but I want you to kind of put what really marriage and divorce is, and what are the things to avoid these divorces, right? Is there a perfect marriage? After being in this field that you've been, is there a perfect marriage?
Okay, wow, so many questions. Okay, so number one, before we really dive in, I just want to get a quick disclaimer out of the way. So today, it's not for treatment. The advice will be really general. So it's very general. It's not very specific. I'm not to you or to anybody specifically. So that's just like a disclaimer. We're just really getting to know about therapy, counseling, and for marriages and for couples, right? And then the next thing is you asked a really good question, and I want to really tackle that in terms of from anecdotal and what friends and family, we do see the numbers of marriages going up. And so the question, while prepping for the show, I tried to look at what is the research? We have the research from mainstream, mainstream, like what leads to divorce? Why do we have high divorces? The comparison, the literature. So we have that. And so within our community, we see the stories, the anecdotes, the family member, the friends. Those are the things that we're seeing. Like that is like a number of divorces. And so what we are curious about today is why is that?
Yes, exactly.
Why, yeah. Why are our marriages leading to divorce? And I don't think divorce is a bad thing,
It's not. Yeah.
It's not. And I think that's something else that needs its own show, like the stigma of divorce and how that is impacting differently the genders. But that's different. I want to come back to your question of what leads to those causes, and so now I'm just going to take the literature, what it's in the mainstream America. Okay, so the leading causes are communication, that leads to miscommunication and communication issues, then money and finance, second, and then third is infidelity. So communication, money, finance, infidelity, and then growing apart, not seeing like life the same way or not having anything in common. So that's the mainstream. Now, how that applies specifically to our community is a really good question. It's like
Yes.
we never have, like, who has done the research or the polling? Where like, I don't know if that was like 1,000 diverse Somali couples that were polled to figure out what was the number one issue that led to divorce. What was number two? I don't think we have that, but I think from stories and anecdotes, we kind of know, we kind of have an idea, and that is like something I think it's I'm very curious about myself. What is the number one cause that leads young couple?
For me, just being in the community, having friends and relatives, and just just people around me, yeah, and coming too close and listening, did a little bit of research, kind of asking the guys and asking the women, like, what's the issue? What's driving us nuts? So what's the problem that we have? Men, percentage of all men, I'll put this out there, sex, they have an issue with sex in their marriage. And when I ask, could you be like willing to communicate with your partner to have a better understanding of your needs and her needs, and come to a conclusion of what you both can do, so that it does not lead a man to do infidelity and cheating. And I think that's the process of separation and frustration in a relationship. I think our women also have to understand men's needs are different from what we need. And what would you advise, like, if it was like a couple issue on a sexual frustration part, like being frustrated in that situation, will that be a communication part also? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
You bring up a very good point, right? You're highlighting a very important point. And good for you that you did the research and that you asked, actually. Wow. I'm really amazed that people were honest, and especially male. Exactly what is like something that they have that it is an issue that is common. And so when we're talking about sex and intimacy, the one number, it's both gender experience it first of all differently. It's not just the physical act that we are talking about right now. So what it entails, and that's something really that I really want to highlight, that's the space for therapy, So before I really tackle that, I want to say, like, therapy is a space where you want to learn about each other and learn about what is the missing piece. So how do you want to tackle that, what's bothering one partner? How do you want to communicate that to your partner in a way that is helpful for both of you, right? So sex includes also emotional intelligence. So how are you communicating to your wife what is not met together, right? That's number one. Number two is like, what is missing so that both of you can tackle it in a way that's healthy for both of you. And actual, if you just don't want to, here's the thing that I want to be careful. It's like, you don't want to blame one person, say like, you're not doing X, Y, and Z. And that way, what else to the other partner, what are the words that you're using? So now it's communication aspect, right? And so now, we have the intimacy component, but before intimacy, and before you tackle that important aspect of a relationship, it's like, also, what does the communication look like, right?
That's true.
You want to have like, and here's the thing. So it's a very good point. And so we have to also get back to the deeper layer, which is like emotional intelligence, right?
Yes.
Okay, now in our culture.
That's right,
So how do we communicate emotion? Man and female, right? You just, we like, typically, and I don't want to generalize, I want to be really careful about it, but typically emotion can say, how do we communicate our emotion?
We barely do.
Yeah, so that's the other thing we have. And so relationships, it doesn't matter if it's like with your siblings, friends, family. When you have a relationship, it's like, it needs work, well, like all relationship needs work. And then husband and wife, it's that extra work. It's like intense work that you have to put in work, because it's like it doesn't, a lot of things don't come naturally. Okay, so what doesn't come naturally is communication, how to express your emotion, how, what is the your partner's love language. What is, what makes your partner, like, how, what is their love language?
That's right.
That, all of that takes work, and also peeling layer by layer, and so you are, husband and wife are two people with two different personalities. You come from two different households, you were raised by two differently, you were raised, you had different experiences, but you also have different trauma. We cannot overlook that, right? That impacts, all of that impacts like how you relate to each other and how you become intimate with each other, right? And so also like comparing, like, was it the first 1 year month good? When did that change? Was it ever good? Was it good, or has it changed? How did you tackle that? And I think intimacy is an important component, it's just before you get tackling that is, how are you able, does your wife know about it?
Yes.
You communicated with everybody else but your wife. So how is that going to improve, How is that going to bring any changes? And so I think that's where I want to come to it and say, like, let's normalize therapy. Let's normalize couple therapy. Let's talk about therapy. What is our understanding culture? We are different generations. And I consider like I'm a millennial, and so all of this can now, right? We're connecting differently. We grew up in the diaspora. We have different stressors, and so how are we learning about ourselves and how we're communicating with each other? And how is that different from our parents? So those are really good questions that we can ask ourselves on the individual level, but also as a couple.
Yes. I like that. I like that, especially the fact that they get to hear today that it's okay to communicate about any topic in your relationship, and they should be. We don't want, like, my main point here that really affects me is that the expectations of our men expecting from women, and we like double standards that is between the two, the men and women in our Somali society is like ninka baka when he has to say the word and you will have nothing. I feel like women, when they put things on the table, or they have needs, or they have ideas or something, they feel offended. And I just disagree with that, because some women are tougher, smarter, hardworking, and outgoing and outspoken. And when it comes to physical mindset and every other lifestyle that they bring to the table, and I feel like some men have this fear of like taking, this person is taking over, And I think, like, what do they, is it like power? Men think they have power than women, and معلومات ba iska dhigaysa, that's the word they'll use, or something like that. Downgrading the other person, leveling each other in a level like you're lower, I'm higher, or thinking like you're the boss of the house. Well, I can, not a boss, but we can comparison our level and just be the same and kind of agree to disagree on things,
I think it's important to look at from the beginning holistically, because like you are two amazing people. So this is how it goes in. So it comes back to the key of communication, right? From the beginning, when you even dated, as a couple, did you sit down and say, this is our goals, this is what we want to accomplish together, this is our financial goals, okay? So financially, this is the stability that we want to do. Communication, this is what we want to do. Raising children, this is how we're going to raise our children together. And then also kind of communicate, like, what do you value, what do I value, and kind of compare. I feel like these needs to be, so if the foundation, so building the foundation together, the togetherness foundation, right? That is like, how did you start doing that? Were you able to do that from the get-go? It's different, because like I think and it's okay to seek a therapist even before you're married and you're thinking about getting married. Oh my God, I heavily encourage it. Let's say you're dating currently and you don't know each other really well. And so you want to tackle difficult subjects that you don't want to bring up, but you want to have learn about yourself. So therapy is not really a therapist telling you what to do. Therapy is really you learning more about yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that's
Exactly.
yeah,
Because that's what I heard. Like therapists usually don't tell you what to do. They just talk about it and you figure out like really was that the issue I had was it, or even hearing from the other partner. Um, what I find out also deep in our society is like uh, the pressure that you get. صح? The pressure that we get. Let me go back a little bit on the fact that you talked about dating.
yeah,
Islamically, if we talk about it, we are not supposed to date. Yani, before people never used to date, they didn't know. And you know, that goes back to our ancestors and our parents. Our parents were married for like many, many years. Some even are still married until right now. And that was guru let's cook from this person to this person, and they made it. How did they made it? Patient, I think. And do you think there's less patient right now? Like everybody has so much less of understanding, like I don't have patience, this and this and that, you can't tell me this, you can't tell me that. um
I think the environment looked different though. The environment, the context was different,
mhm.
the time frame was different. There was nothing wrong. I heavily believe it can work still. It still works. I mean,
Yes,
you
it
know,
does.
I think it really does. But I think today, as a millennium, I'm speaking as a millennium, that diaspora the new generation.
صح.
Our stresses is different. You know, the stress that we encounter is different. We all have student loans, but it's like the things, the factors that contribute how we communicate is different. The
Mhm.
support that we have is different. So when you think about it's a really great example. So Waga Horamarki or Somalia Lajoga. Well, how did your support system look like?
That's right.
وإيفن حتى هذه هوي يعاملك لقى even حتى you had health help, right? So
Mhm.
the stresses that into كل manner looks different. The way we deal with stress is different. Also the accountability. So I read a recent article that said like 65% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, right?
Right. Mhm.
Financial component contributes how we experience the stress and how we communicate with our partner, right?
Mhm.
So these are things. So within the context, Wagahora, I think maybe people had a different kinds of patients because the variables that contributed to the stress that they experienced, was different, right? So today it's like we have like, well, we all have two cars, we have student loans, we have payments, we have
Mhm.
so much more, which adds like that layer of stress that we encounter. Well, and then also when everybody works like long hours, when you come back home, what does that look like? How do you communicate? How
Yes, yes.
so those are variables that communicate the relationships that we have. And then I want to go back to the dating life. So there is halal dating. You can date, and while you are, I mean, we have to separate when you're talking to a guy or girl. So what kind of conversations are you having? Is that
Mhm.
everything like malab sukar? I'm good. You're good. This is good.
Yes,
No, we're being, I mean, this is like, honest conversation. What
yes,
does the
definitely.
conversation look like? It's a dose of reality. So
Yes, I like that. That's why we're doing this.
what
Thank you.
kind of conversation are you having together? You know, are you telling like this is what I'm about, this is my value, this is how I want you? Are you as a guy like saying like this is how I grew up, this is what I value, this is where we see each other,
Mhm.
go together. And then when you are communicating, when you're having this honest a good conversation. You're kind of starting with like either you will go like and so like it's
That's
kind of not for me, but also you would be like, yeah, like and then in midway when you're married for a while, you revisit that continuously.
true.
But it's
Mhm.
work. And I think we have the wedding and the party and the fun and all of that. It's mashallah, it's beautiful, but the work
Mhm.
really the first day is the hardest year, wallahi.
That's true.
First year of marriage, it's really the hardest year because you have to learn how to live together. Like minor things will contribute to bigger things. Who's grocery shopping?
Mhm.
Who's doing laundry? Who's cleaning? Who's in charge of the bill? Who's paying what? How did you communicate? What's the expectation? And how did you divide that up? And did you sit down together? You know, how are you doing dinners together? What and how are you continuing to date? Because you're married now, does that mean
I
that
like that. I like that. We, I think you hit the right words there. We forget to date when married. Men don't take their wives outside for dinner. Women are not looking sexy and beautiful for their husbands. And there is no this perfect. And the only time a woman looks good, yeah, is only when she's going to a wedding. Maybe the guy gets something that night. Yeah. Oh, she's looking beautiful. It reminds him of their first day they met. But we need to cut that off. And literally, this comes. I'm not a damn therapist, but alhamdulillah, I've learned something from that. And inshallah, one day it will benefit me later, because I've learned what really frustrates men and women in our in society and community. Because you hear a man says that, no, but it's the business, so she doesn't want to go out. Oh, you even see a man being weak on wanting to go outside. He prefer to stand at 24 or caramel or hanging out with his friend or going for soccer, other than going for a dinner and maybe capture the sessions around their life, like what did you do for the week, or walking in the house and appreciating he has a wife and be like, hi babe, today work was great, how was work? Like, there's no asking, there's no like enjoying that moment with each other and appreciating that each other still looks pretty, each other still look, you know what I mean, like
excited about each other.
Excited about it. And I think that's where the question I was gonna ask, that question is where that I was gonna say such marriages are having the bad doom, which is the word for like you're getting boring in your lifestyle because you're doing a repetition of the same thing over and over again, because there's not exploring adventurous in your relationship. It's like Ninki, he goes out and do whatever he does and pays the bill. Or even if the one woman works, is like it's even hard to understand what is this really person doing, and that you live in the same house, but going out discussing about like work was this, my manager is horrible, like that, it brings up that kind of background when you were dating and kind of makes it fun, and I think that's what's missing. Traveling together, and experience different type of hotels in different places, and just being out of the same household makes it a different
but
so
also
that's what we're lacking.
learning about each other too. So we all deal with stress differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how is your partner dealing with stress? Is he more quiet and wants to have a breathing room?
Mm-hmm.
And how do you do stress? And are you more angry and you are like not in a great mood, right? And so really communicating with each other, like, what is your week gonna look like? Are you gonna have like, also the careers that you're all in impact. But the one thing I want to come back to is like, when you are dating, no matter how much of a bad day or whatever you have, you look forward to that day, whoever you're seeing it, and
that's true.
Filled up, and you are excited because no matter what, at the end of the day, how much of it you're like, oh my god, I get to see whoever you're seeing, and whatever activity, like whether you're going to a restaurant or a movie, you are prepping for it, and that's your breathing room. And that should continue within marriage too, that you're looking forward to see your partner, that you can talk to your partner, that you guys can brainstorm, and that you create that space where you are together, not like that you go on your own way, but really honing that in and acknowledging like that you have that connection.
That's
and
right.
Fostering that connection doesn't come easy. It's like something you have to work on. Learn how to build that together, and then the other part is also like, having together hobbies, like really carving that out, that time that you said, like you're gonna go for a bike ride or jogging, walk, where you really consciously do like an activity that does not, even if you have kids, still do that. Figure out a way to get a childcare, even kids, ways to carve that out, and also learn how to. We're gonna prioritize us, not just think about it, but also, and that's what therapy is. Again, I want to reiterate, therapy is you get homework, you get assignments, and you have to think about how you want to improve. You get communication assignments. So therapy is really the space where you learn more about yourself, what has worked in the beginning, where we are today, and how much we're struggling with each other, and what is more than what is more, is more that we're not connecting, or that we don't know how to communicate. And earlier you mentioned the perfect
marriage.
That's the thing.
Yes, that's true. You have to work for it.
You have to. And success, and that's the part that I really want to define and say, success looks so different. Don't look at an Instagram couple and say like, wow, mashallah,
Oh,
but it's a little bit, it's a snippet of it, right? So
That's true.
define your own success for your husband and for you. You know, what's your own success? Is it successful that you went out one time and define your own way of what success looks like and how you guys are. Marriage is work in progress. You continue working, you know,
That's
and
true.
that's the one thing that I wanted people to get out of it, that out of this today, you know, because I was intimidated when you told me what you told me, because I was like, oh
Yes.
my God. But the one thing I really want to people, especially younger generation and all of us, individual therapy as well as like couple therapy and family and parenting, you have to invest in yourself. You
Yes.
have to learn how to communicate. And therapy is really learning of emotional intelligence and communication styles and personality. Do you know yourself?
Yeah.
Or get to know your partner. What do you know about yourself? Ask yourself, do you know yourself? What
Yeah.
triggers? You know?
Yeah, what makes you happy, what doesn't make you happy, what are your likes and dislikes,
Yeah.
and then the other person has to know, so they watch from triggering those issues. And that's a very good one. Yeah, definitely. And I hope this is it's a great message out there. Ashwak, I just wanted to kind of put this back again and say, in our society there's so much pressure. Now I'm going back to that pressure part I was talking about. Now, again, they're being pressured so much to a point that everyone is so challenged. Like, I have to get married this year. Wallahi, 2020 hadan gursun waaye de. Like, there is this pressure in women and frustration, and they meet the wrong guy, or they meet the guy with so much red flags, and they ignore those flags because they put their mindset, by this year I have to settle. They get into this marriage, but at the end of the day, they were making the wrong decision. They are not happy, and these marriages are happening every single time. That's why we're like, oh, whatever, got married this month, last month wala kala tage, or less than a year. I mean, pathetic. So tell me, what are the things that is avoidable in this situation for our women to have so much encouragement and patience in themselves, than to rush into a situation where maybe they get pregnant. Even this is my part, that I feel it's the wrong decisions that we shouldn't be making through pressure, getting married for wrong reason, and then having a child that comes to this world suffer the mistake, the situation you've made, in abolaan corinayo, and all this. What do you say about that?
Well, first of all, wow, it's I want to highlight and get back to all of that is, it's happening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, and the thing that I really want to come back to, it's like that individually knowing yourself and
Mm-hmm.
really getting to know yourself and seeing, like, I think really when it comes in career, money, marriages, anything, the one thing that I really want to highlight is like focusing on yourself and listening to that inner voice within you, not just for the sake of like everybody else is like expecting you to do,
Yes.
or all like I hear all my squads are, everybody is, no,
It's married, and yeah.
listen to yourself, like. And also what is, we also have to go back and define what is marriage, what's the purpose of marriage,
There we go. Yeah.
why do you want to have a partnership with somebody. Don't look at the age. I think I see a lot of time the age, the stereotypes, forget about that. It's, alhamdulillah, it's you, it's your life, your marriage, all the things that Adika Tab'ani said, it's for you. Don't look to the left and right and put that own pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to advocate for, the mental health, for our figure out the mental health of individual and couple level, to get back and getting to know and finding within that inner peace. I mean, also social media plays a role, um,
Time.
and also finding that safe space that you brainstorm. What is the number one? Like, put a lot of ideas. Like, just now, okay, anybody who's listening and you are in that space, grab pen and paper and brainstorm. Put down as many
Yes.
words and highlight why is that pressure? Is it because it's pressure? Is that something that comes to your top priority, or is it because you feel like you have to do it? So that is like, I would really recommend, like, take that all in and on an individual level really hone that out, because you don't want to go into you have to be honest. Why did within yourself, why did this marriage not work? Because you don't want to repeat the same thing. And that's the thing. Divorce is okay. That's fine. But you have to learn from it. What
Yes.
has not worked for you? What was difficult? What did you learn about yourself? What you're not willing to compromise, and what you value. So all those lessons, beautiful lessons, it's life lessons. Take that with you, and then go on. And so that's what I'm saying. Even if it didn't, maybe your first marriage was the introduction.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's true.
Strength-based. Let's look at strength-based. Holistically. What did you learn from it? And what has helped you, and what are you willing to? And let's say hypothetically, and I love that you brought it up, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
Yeah, that is. You got into the wrong marriage, you have a child, it's all about that child. And so within the divorce, one thing I really, really want to focus on and bring back is you're not husband and wife anymore. You divorced, but you are mom and dad for that child. You still are mom and dad. And so as a mom and dad for that child or children, you have to learn how to still communicate. You can't ignore that. You can't just disregard the one person. You still are together, mom and dad. So you have to figure out, how can we be good at this game of raising God collectively.
Exactly.
And in therapy, what you're learning is like having the same rules for both houses, whether it's 50 or every other weekend. How you communicate together in front of teachers. How do you communicate to outside providers? How do you have the same structure? How do you have the same rules for both households, right? Because as a parent, both parents, you don't want to have one rule for one house and one rule, and one house becomes the fun house and one house becomes the disciplinary
nightmare house.
No, and that's really, now that divorce it's common, it's okay, it's very okay, but the role of husband and wife is what you drop, but the role as a parent is still there. You're still parents, so how are you communicating? And the therapist can help you together have a communication plan, the rules for both houses. So in one house, if you go at 9 p.m. to bed, the other house will be also 9 p.m. And how do you talk positively about your ex-partner? Dad said this, mom said that. Like, please, let's avoid any misrepresent. No, I think, and that's the thing. Deal with the pain that you have about your partner in a safe space where you work that through. But when you are together with your kids, you are, whatever it is, try, because the kids internalize that. At the end of the day, your main objective, the main goal, that the two people have, is to be parents and raise children, the children that have together. And that's really hard work too, because you have to work on your own emotion, not to get triggered by who that person is. You don't want to be upset, that emotional dysregulation, that when you get upset, that your children, it will impact your children.
That's right. Yeah.
So your children will internalize that, and children are smart. Children are good observer. Not an infant is a good so that impacts their own emotional intelligence. And one thing I really want parents and everybody to get out of it, your children would see what communication looks like, what emotional regulation looks like. And as a parent, we are the first teacher for our children. We teach everything our children, and so we will become those teachers who teach them what kind of communication styles that is, and how to regulate ourselves too. And so that's the one thing I really love that you brought it up. Even if you, of course, you still have to learn how to communicate and how to express your emotions.
The anger.
That anger that you have for your partner, it's really important how you don't get triggered. But that is skills that you learn in therapy. These skills, you learn how to say like, you become formal. And you see positive words about your wife and ex-husband in front of children.
And that's super great. I love what you say there. And also, this is just the kids seeing that two parents are separated, but at the same time they kind of like respect each other. That is a very important thing, and I think that's what's lacking in our communities. Like, you see a very angry father that doesn't even want to go see his kids, or you see a very, very disappointed mother who doesn't even want to share the kid with his father, because of the divorce, or like or this and that, and it's just This doesn't have to do anything with the child, you
Right,
know.
and actually, and it is true, and we don't want to dismiss those emotions.
You're
The,
right.
both people, these emotions are raw. They exist. They are
Mhm.
there, and so how do you learn to process that for yourself? In also how do you want to not get triggered? Because maybe what
Yes.
معلنك صباح المامة and then خوفك يا كهري معنا and then لو حاسة two things go back and forth
Mhm.
then you get triggered, you know. And so I think how the most important muhimmة is for the children, you know,
صح.
and you have to become لابد إنه وكلة تكتم, but still you are mom and dad to
Mhm.
you know, and that
Yeah.
pain and everything, you know, wallahi, that's what I'm advocating. Go seek a therapist to work through
Mhm.
that, you know.
And we don't, you know, as a mother, we don't have to force fathers to be fathers, you know, and learning their responsibility towards their kids and time. And it's okay, move on, get married, have other kids and stuff, but remember that there is a child out here that need your time and your focus on too. And I think that's another frustration that most family have. That's a great topic that we're talking about. Just another thing, culture 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 part of lifestyle that we have now, expectations from somebody that you're dating or somebody that you're getting married to, what they expect you to fit in their world and wanting you to change, you know. um what would you say about that?
That's really common. والله نخن كان
A lot common. I
yeah.
have to change. A lot of guys like I'll go out with or something like that, it just is like, oh, surah magashata, or this masamesa. So it's like more like, oh, do I have to be presentable to you? And then after that, what happens if you accept me? Then since you already even have that first mentality, the boom, you drop it down, and then now I have to think about like, oh damn, now he has a problem. He'll get used to it because I'm fun. And then guess what happens? Now I have to represent myself to his family if I'll fit in or not. And within time period is like it's never good enough.
Yeah.
You just didn't do what I wanted you to. You just didn't, you know, I don't fit in his family or lifestyle or religious perspective of how they have it in their mind, you know. That's a very hard thing for women right now. And sometimes they like, I need to Maya because of what you want. But
Mhm.
then at the end of the day, it's really hard. This has to come from personally.
Yeah.
Qofki inuu
Yeah.
isbedelo. So, what do you think about that frustration part of cultural fit in?
I mean, honesty, Hotara, with honesty and integrity, and that's the number one thing. I think you have to be honest. Don't. I think the number one thing is like that honesty of like, don't sell malab is shakar is sugar, and I will do this for I
Subhan.
will do this for you. I will
Mhm,
continue. I think like, you know, what is realistic?
mhm,
And what are you willing to sacrifice for that person? And then ultimately is what I said, can you make a human being really 100% a human being the way they like
mhm,
actually on an individual level so you know,
mhm,
again, it's just that component of like, is that possible and how can I do that, you know, or is it possible for the sake of like temporary, it's just short term, and then what
mhm.
does it look like long term, you know? And
Yeah.
um, and are you willing to really you know, how attached I okay, and then the other thing that I really, these things that you having internal, once you have that internally with you, bring that back to your partner and be like,
Mhm.
how will this look like in a year and 2 and 3 when we have kids? All of these, how is that gonna, how are we, and it's a collective thing, how are we doing it together?
Right. And
Yeah,
supporting each other on it, you know. I,
yeah,
I think I think I will enjoy somebody that will not judge me for my appearance, but will also like advise me down the road, like, hey babe, you know, what do you think about this? And you know, and this is good because Dintena says this and that, and you know, that communication kind of like, you know what, I'm not being forced, but you know, he's right, and you know, you worked yourself towards that. But changing somebody else because of you, it's being selfish, yani. It's like you know, think about the other person. Even if they were to satisfy you or kind of do what you want, at the end of the day, where
yeah.
would it lead?
Like, what would that lead to? That despite, so okay,
Yeah.
internally, right? So you said all of it, but internally inside you, subconsciously, well, how does that look like? That
Right.
translates in behavior, right? So you might not say words, but you behave in a way, you distance from your partner, you don't like your partner, you're resentful. You
Right.
that okay, so that leads to other ways that it's still gonna be impactful in a negative way. It will
Mm-hmm.
impact the relationship that you have, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah.
did all of these great things. However, deep down, you know, it might look differently. And maybe your
That's
partner,
right.
and this is the worst part, both ways. Maybe your partner doesn't even know about it, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See the end result that you changed. You're not as happy anymore. You don't like
Mm-hmm.
it as much. They see the end result, but what is the underlying root cause? What is the underlying what caused all of this? You know,
So, mm-hmm.
maybe that's the thing, you know, maybe you are doing it all of that, but it will come, my point is it will come in different ways, you know,
So,
that
yeah.
your partner might not even know about it. And you are so resentful, you know?
Mm-hmm. We gotta have love conquer all, just like loving each other, appreciating each other, caring for each other, and supporting each other in hard moments, in happy moments, and getting each other's back. I believe in that.
I And how
In
does that look like? How does
in
supporting each other
each
look
other
like?
look like, yeah, in what terms, yeah. So
Yeah.
thank you
No,
so much, and that's
now
great.
you're both collectively succeeding, you know, and let's say even one partner excels in that, and maybe, you know, he's not, you know, how does the changes and in a way, because like if nothing is constant, right?
So, yeah, that's true.
Total helmet techniques, then you advance
Mm-hmm.
careers, you will not advance in careers. One person might go ahead. So collectively, what does that look for both of you? You know, what is
So,
the both of you, you know? And how's
mm-hmm.
one person like feeling certain way about it? What is
Mm-hmm.
the way that that person feels, but they don't tell you?
That's true. Before I cut you off, I'm gonna ask Valerie a question. Valerie, I know I cannot see the questions. What do you see for me out there? Any questions for Ashwak?
Oh,
Okay. Okay. And how many are they watching? Okay, all right. My audience, we have Ashwak here. I'm gonna give you a little bit of time. And do you have any questions for Ashwak or myself? I'm not a therapist. Yeah, so it's an honor to have everyone watching. This was a very an excellent show that I had to do it. I've been asked with a lot of people, a lot, and due to that was like a way of finding out the issues that we had. Everybody was complaining. My wife is this or that or that. Wives have become like this. Men have become like this. Kids are scattered around. There's so much mental health going on. There's just and the distractions just you know we are our own problem if we don't learn how to fix our own problem, and we have people like you who are well expert on this kind of work and field, but it's so sad that we're not willing to come see you to talk about it and fix it. What does it take for someone to really come close to the fact that no, like, okay, this has gone out of control? I remember one time I had mentioned I wanted to see a therapist. Is for my previous marriage, and it didn't go well. It's like I'm watching too much Lifetime movies. Yeah, yeah. So when a woman or a guy ask for a therapist, look into it, consider it. When they mean that they want to make it work, so therapy is not something shameful. It's not something that we should be afraid to do it. And that's what I just wanted to put out there. In any way, forward way of family therapy problems in marriage, problems in mentally and any other way, it's very important. It improves a lot of issues, and you can end up having a good marriage just coming to see Ashwar. So any other questions,
yeah.
anybody else?
You know about that, but any therapist, and here's the thing, one takeaway from all of this really, and that's the primary reason why I was really so excited to talk to you about it, is like the taking away from counseling and therapy, you know, it's really investment in yourself, you getting to learn about yourself, and also go back and have that honest what hinders us, like it's, and I get it, it's really raw, and you have to be vulnerable to go seek somebody who you sit in front of a stranger and you have to talk about yourself and on a deep things that are you know, it's uncomfortable. Yes. However, therapy is about learning. It's about learning new skills. It's learning about yourself, and therapists are trained. And I think the other part is like, it's confidential. It's your private life stays within the therapy room.
That's true.
It's a safe space. You create that safe space with your therapist to really learn more about who you are. What is your personality? What is your communication style?
Yeah.
And I really, for everybody in our community, the way we used to do things is not working.
Anyway,
Not quite working. However, give therapy an opportunity, whether it's for parenting, divorce, raising a child with special need, having our young kids are really encountering stressors that are different than before. Life looks different for us, and I think as a young person who are like as a millennial who grew up here in the diaspora, hello.
Oh yeah, they have that too.
The thing is that we have to really rethink how we are dealing with stress and how we're dealing with mental health and how are we coping with that? What are our coping tools,
That's true.
And that's really the one thing that I really, really reiterate and stress out. Therapy is good, invest in yourself. It's really a safe space to learn more about yourself and everything that, that is not helpful for you, but that you want to learn how to cope with it,
That's true. Yeah, that is great. I mean, we gotta focus on ourselves. One thing about focusing on oneself, that is a very good thing that you mentioned there when it comes choices too when you're making. Like for me, I have a choice of what I want and who I want to be with. I do have a choice. But if I'm running out of those choices, what are my options? You always have to look at that. And that's the other thing that I think we women are frustrated about it in our community. Is like, I'm running out of options because I'm not finding my list. So what do I go with? But at the same time, you're right about the fact that it's about you. It's not being selfish to love you, and just making sure that you think about your choices too, because
and your own emotional intelligence,
yeah.
Express your emotion. Are you bottling that up, down, hiding it from, or running away from it, or are you coping in a way that it's it's not productive or not helpful or functional? But let's coping in a way that's not functional, that's hindering you. In a way that it's like, it's impactful in a negative way in your life. And I think that's the keys, and I really want to reiterate, and everybody who's watching in a different country, this is really specific to the Twin Cities. I mean, like
in the United States.
Yeah, in Minnesota, and the stresses that we face in Minnesota as a Somali, and it's different than in Germany, Holland, other Asian countries, and within Canada, it's completely different. So the stresses and the ways that people come across is like what it is like in Minnesota, and it might be comparably similar to other countries, but it's really. And I also noticed it's two girls talking about this issue. So I would like to see the perspective from a male therapist or male counselor.
Yes, that would be really amazing. Tell me the other one.
I forgot. I have to look it up. I know there is another guy. I know there's another licensed marriage and therapist, and he is. I'm blanking on the name, but I will look up and I will tell you. Inshallah, And that's the thing that I really want to highlight is like, to normalize therapy and counseling,
It's not a shame to do it. It's not. It's a very important for now, especially now. I can tell you with 2020, I learned a lot. And you know what? I was like, this topic has to go on. I have to do it one with the therapist that, we shouldn't be ashamed of it at all costs, Valerie, any questions at all? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
My email. You can post always. I'm good with my email. I think you have my email.
So is it Ashwak? Valerie, is there possible you can put it there?
Oh,
Okay.
perfect. Yeah. So ashwak.hassan@gmail.com.
And then
And
in social media, where are you active?
no,
So
Gmail.
therapists don't
No,
have
I do, but I mean, Instagram's just, I'm really not that. I don't have Facebook.
okay.
So email is really good.
All right. What about Google? Do someone can Google?
Yeah, if you Google, you'll find my email and phone number. Feel free to post also my phone number.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you so much. What a
Yeah.
fun.
So before I close in, which we didn't have any questions from anybody, but we just did a little bit of researches and things like that. Thank you so much for your time. But what advice do you have for couple to overcome challenges in their marriage? What last advice do you have for that?
What have they? Okay, so sit down together and see uh, therapy. Okay. Maybe you're not there yet, but throw out the idea. Maybe you don't want to really, but what is it? What and ask yourself, well, why don't we want to see therapist? That's that. And then what are you struggling? What is the primary things that is causing the stress, the struggle, the problems that is reoccurring? And then
Right.
make for yourself long-term and short-term goals. Long term, we want to accomplish this. Short term, we want to accomplish that, really, in a simple way, and tackle that day by day and ask yourself, because that's what a therapist will ask you, like, what have you done this week to work on those things. Ask yourself,
Mhm.
make yourself accountable, of whatever
Mhm.
struggle you are going through right now. Sit together and openly discuss, this is our struggle and how are we.
Taking care of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, guys, you've all heard it. And if there was something that I missed, you know how to get hold of me on my page. And I just want to thank each and every audience of ours that were interested in this topic that I brought Ashwork. And it's an honor to have her here to discuss this sensitive a conversation that a lot of people don't like to talk about it or don't want to hear it. So it is important, and it is something that we want to hear it and open our mindset to it. And mashallah. And if there's anything else I can help and bring anyone in the show, please let me know. You can send me a message in private and my Dose of Reality with Shukri TV on my Facebook. We do have emails there and phone numbers there you can reach me at. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Dose of Reality. Stay tuned for next time. Bye, Ashwak. It was good to have you.
Yes. Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a great evening.
You
Bye,
too.
Valerie. Bye.